I messed up tonight. I lost another fight. I still mess up, but I'll just start again. I keep falling down. I keep on hitting the ground. I always get enough. See what's next. Birds don't just fly. They fall down and get up. Nobody learns without getting it wrong. I won't give up, no, I won't give in till I reach the end and then I'll start again. No, I won't leave. I wanna try everything. I wanna try even though I could fail.
Welcome back, everyone, to episode 20 of the Zootopia Minute podcast. Did you hear that? We are now at episode 20. Yay!
Woohoo!
And we are the Zootopia Minute podcast, the minute-by-minute podcast where we review, analyze, and ramble about the Oscar-nominated hit film Zootopia.
That's right.
I am your host, Choco.
And I am Simul. How are you doing today?
I am good. The week went by very, very fast.
Yeah, it did feel like that for me too. For whatever reason.
I could have sworn. I thought today was Wednesday. But anyways, we are reviewing minute 20 of Zootopia. And our minute starts when Judy says, is a class 3 health code violation.
We finally find out what that is.
Yep. And ends when Judy says, you know, it burns me up. Yet another cliffhanger.
Yeah, we got a nice sandwich of cliffhangers for this one.
An ice cream sandwich.
So that's from timestamp 2000 to 2059 for those following along. We finally made it to 20 minutes. How does that make you feel?
I feel way behind our other minute-by-minute peers. They seem to be in the 90s now, and we're still at our 20s.
The 90s were a
hit our
different
20s.
time. Dude, we get the swing music, we get the flappers. They get like weird educational rap videos about downloading stuff and not copying floppies, which is pretty cool, I guess.
And skateboard kids.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, a really fascinating minute because we get to see interactions between the two main protagonists of the film. I think our first direct interactions with Judy and Nick.
I believe that's right. It only took 20 minutes to get there, geez.
I know, crazy, huh? Well, anyways, Oscar-nominated film, very, very special time. It's going to sweep all the awards away. Nick Wilde is going to win Best Actor. Judy is going to win Best Actress. They're going to sweep all the awards. It's going to be amazing.
Yep, so that's coming up on Sunday. So I don't normally watch the Oscars. I don't really care to, but I might tune in just to see what happens with Zootopia and its nomination.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of our minute, as we mentioned before, we finally get to know just what it is to keep an ungloved trunk. It's some sort of health violation. Class 3, I think she said. Is that right?
Yep. Class 3 health code violation.
So upon hearing this, the big elephant boss turns around and his elephant compatriot serving the ice cream gives a somewhat embarrassed look and walks back into the kitchen. The thing is, it's like he was doing that very visibly the whole time. I don't know why that's much of a surprise or what they thought was going to happen if you're just very obviously doing that. And there's a cop right there. And it's like...
It's like Kitchen Nightmares. I was watching Kitchen Nightmares earlier today with Gordon Ramsay yelling at people. One chef, he dropped something out of the pan and he picked it off the floor and put it back in the pan right in front of Gordon Ramsay.
That's something you don't do.
Yeah, and Ramsay was like, wait, hold up. Why did you just put that back in the pan? And the guy was like, well, the heat's going to kill the germs. He's like, you do not toss something out of the pan, toss it on the floor, pick it back up and put it in there. So, I don't know. People do stuff all the time in front of people.
Yeah. Doesn't this kind of thing just make you wonder, like, what sort of things like that just happen at restaurants all the time and you just never see it?
I assume based on the stories I see, I assume this happens a lot of times, so I just roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked food service, but I was always fairly careful to, like, wash my hands every so often and, like, make sure nothing touches things it's not supposed to.
You didn't spit in someone's meal?
Though. No, I never did that. The worst I would do is maybe give someone decaf if they were being really awful.
Oh.
It's a thing they do. It's the equivalent. It's like the barista equivalent of spitting in someone's soup or whatever.
I hear that. Okay, that's true. Oh yeah, because you're from Seattle and every single restaurant in Seattle is actually a coffee shop.
Oh yeah.
That's my impression of Seattle. You guys just have coffee shops everywhere.
We do have coffee shops everywhere. I mean, we're the home of Starbucks.
And Seattle's best coffee.
But the funny thing about that is Seattle actually has more local coffee shops than it does Starbucks. And if we want to go get coffee, we don't just automatically go to Starbucks. We have all these other options. Whereas in other parts of the country where it's not as big a deal, maybe depending on where you live, the only, or like aside from maybe one or two other things, the most obvious option is going to be Starbucks. And you'd think it'd be the case here where that's where Starbucks is from, is Seattle, but it's actually kind of the opposite.
Starbucks. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know too much about... I have a lot of Starbucks gift cards because my dad always buys me like a pack of gift cards just to give to like people for as Christmas gifts. He's like, okay, so make sure to send cards out to your doctor, your dentist, your professors, your friends, build good relationships. So I always have a stack of extra cards that I end up using when I go to the airport just to get like breakfast.
That's cool.
My mom almost bought a bunch of stock in Starbucks back when it was first founded.
Ooh.
She plays with stocks. I think she's an accountant and she always invests in stocks. And back when Starbucks first came around, she was going to get a big portion of stocks. And my dad looked at her and says, do you seriously think in this economy we're going to have people buy $3 cups of coffee every day? No, it's going to be a flop. And
no, they're going to buy $5 cups of coffee every day.
Yeah, my dad admitted he was wrong. And if my mom listened to her gut, I guess she would have a bunch of Starbucks stock right now that's worth a lot more.
A lot, yeah. Crazy how that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah.
This little ice cream parlor is probably a bit too small to have its own stock. I mean, aside from being called a jumbo place. But so what immediately happens after that elephant goes back into the kitchen is Judy says, yeah, you know, you got that health code violation. It sure would be a shame. It's a very nice shop you have here. It'd be a shame if something were to happen to it.
She says it's a big deal.
Yeah. So, and then basically what we get to see is she's just totally, from day one, totally ready to accept bribes. Because that's totally what she's doing. She's just like, you know what? We could make this health code violation disappear if, you sells my friend here a jumbo pop, huh? It's like,
she's abusing
Judy,
her
you've
position.
had this job for, like, you're doing traffic meters and you're taking bribes from people. You're such a great cop, Judy. Good job.
You know, it's funny. So when I was at military academy and we had to study human psychology when it comes to leadership positions and stuff, we find that someone who has never held a position of power is more easy to kind of fall into the, oh, I actually have power. I could abuse my position, do a lot of stuff.
That makes sense.
Kind of that.
Because it's novel, it's new, you want to exercise it.
That's what I noticed. Like for cons, I think because I've worked for a bunch of cons, I think I see that specifically if you have like con staffers who have real positions in the outside world or been doing cons for years. They're normally more humble with their position, but then you have some kid who was probably never the chess club captain or captain of the football team, all of a sudden having a position, they abuse it like crazy.
Yeah, it's the concept of something being new and interesting, so why not try it out? Why not see what this does if I tweak things around a little bit?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting that Nick kind of pounces on this right away. Like, it's like they were working in a team together without even knowing it. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, a jumbo pop, please.
Yeah, jumbo pop. Thanks so much, lady. I mean, it's fortunate. It's very fortunate for her to have been there at that time, I suppose. And it's so nice because that little tiny fox son who thinks he's an elephant, you wouldn't want him to not get what he wants. So it's a good thing that the elephant then gives in to Judy's demands. It's totally bribery. Totally bribery.
It is bribery.
And agrees to sell Nick a jumbo pop. And Nick says, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Reaches into his pocket and, what happened? He has no wallet. Have you ever been somewhere and forgotten your wallet, Choco?
Yes, actually.
Yeah. What's the worst time that's happened?
What was worse was before the New York Pony Convention, the day before my fight, I had to get some prints done at Staples. And the closest Staples was, I think, actually Office Max. The closest Office Max was a 3-mile walk.
Ooh.
I walk 3 miles, get my prints done. As I'm ready to pay, I realize I don't have my wallet. So I have to walk back home, get my wallet, then walk back to the Staples. So that was like a 12-mile walk.
Oh, jeez.
That day. Yeah.
I mean, get your cardio in, I guess.
Yeah. And I didn't even have my Pokemon Go out working, so I couldn't even get my walking points. Sad.
I've forgotten my wallet on like a number of different occasions, but I've also started to keep emergency cash, I have this little capsule thing attached to my keys. And I found that I can fold up a $20 bill really, really super duper tiny, and it just barely fits in that thing. This nice little watertight capsule thing that just attaches with a keychain to my keys. And so on a number of times I've said, oh no, I forgot my wallet. Hey, wait, I have this $20 bill I can pull out. It's funny though, because the first time I did it, I tried to just give it. It was really hard to unfold. And so I tried to just hand it over to the cashier, and they're like, can you do that yourself, please?
Like
I don't want to rip it. Yeah, and so then I have to like sort of awkwardly stand in front of the counter trying to unfold this tiny little origami bill, basically, that's been folded up super tight with like super tight creases and bits tucked into other parts. And it's like, wow, how did I even manage to get this together?
When I was growing up, my dad always tells me you always have to bring like an emergency pack out and all that stuff. And like emergency money had to always be a thing that I had on me, including an emergency credit card. Oh, and also because this was around the time Y2K was happening, I always had to carry emergency silver coins in case the apocalypse happened for some reason, and all of a sudden paper money no longer was valid.
There's real value in silver, gold bullion. That's what we need.
So I had a bunch of Canadian silver bullion in little sealed packs ready to go just in case.
Isn't it interesting how you can have like a collectible silver dollar that has a market value higher than its legal value as tender? So you could spend it. You could spend a silver dollar and it would be worth $1. But if you were to sell the silver dollar, you could probably get a lot more for it.
Oh yeah. As a coin collector, I think that's the fascinating thing, because sometimes I always get like some special coins in my change that I realize if I don't spend it for its face value, I could probably sell it for a bit more. Like even wheat pennies now go for a few more cents. So you could trade it in for 1 cent, but if you're really, really eager, you could trade it in for 5 cents.
When I worked at Starbucks, I would just keep a bunch of pennies in my pocket that were my pennies. And so if ever someone gave me a wheat penny or an old coin, or I found like a cool old penny in the thing, I just swap it out with one from my pocket so I could keep the cool one.
Nice. The big ones I have to look out for, I think I actually only ever found one, are the silver Washingtons and the silver Roosevelts. So before 1964, all Washington quarters and all Roosevelt quarters were, I think, composed of 40% silver. So, but it's the weight, you could barely notice it. It's a little bit heavier, but yeah, those are worth their weight in silver, which means they're probably about like $5 to $10.
That's pretty cool.
In for silver content. So
yeah, coins are neat.
And as a coin collector and a collector of paper currency, I was actually very fascinated looking at the bill Judy put on the counter.
Really?
It looks like a Monopoly note, to be honest. It didn't look like it was an animal. Like, it didn't have any visual animal puns. Like, there wasn't a Lion George Washington on it. It was just like a Monopoly note.
It was kind of hard to see, though. I mean, for me anyway. It was kind of hard to see the detail on it.
Now, are we assuming that the Zootopia currency is the same as our current US dollar?
I don't know, because this raises an interesting question too. So, just so we don't gloss over that, the reason Judy is doing this is because, Nick doesn't have his wallet, and his son just looks super disappointed, and we learn it's his birthday, and it's going to be the worst birthday ever if he doesn't get this jumbo pop. So they saunter on out. Nick says, thanks anyway. Come on, buddy. Walks out with a sad-looking elephant child just reaching back longingly towards the red jumbo pop that he can no longer have. And Judy says, that sucks, and jumps up to the counter, slams down a 20. It looks like a 20 on the table, and says, you know what, keep the change. So she decides to buy it for them, I guess.
That's the proudest father of a furry child ever.
Yeah, no kidding. But that does raise an interesting question. Are these Zootopian dollars equivalent to US dollars at the time the film was made? Something like that? Do they have a similar buying power? You look at how expensive this jumbo pop is. It's $15.
So are we assuming it's the same exchange rate?
I mean, to what?
To the US dollar. So if it is the same exchange rate, we could assume that she basically paid 1/3 more than whatever the cost of the jumbo pop is. So if it's more or less, she's paying 1/3 more. But what I was thinking about the jumbo pop, actually, I was thinking more in terms of like, Costco bulk purchases. Like when you go to Costco, you always have to buy the bigger pack and you save more money overall, but you have to buy bigger. So I don't know, maybe that's interesting, because you could buy probably one tiny popsicle there, and buying a bigger one would probably, equal out the cost.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying too about the size of different animals disproportionately affecting their economic viability. Because if you're a smaller animal, you need to consume less. If you're larger, you obviously got to eat more, larger portions. And so $15, like if we were the size of Nick and Judy, that popsicle to us might be worth $15 because it's huge. It's a massive, massive popsicle. For a popsicle to be $15, it had better be that big, right?
Yeah.
But to an elephant, that's like maybe a slightly larger than average popsicle, and it's costing them $15 for one that in relation to their size is a lot smaller than it is to Nick or Judy. So that brings up that point that you've brought up several times now about depending on what size you are, what species you are, economic viability is going to affect you differently. Your money is going to have different, I guess not different buying power, but you're going to need resources differently from other people, and that's going to affect how much income you need to earn. So that is really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept because you kind of see these worlds in like fantasy books or science fiction worlds where they play around with these ideas, and here we're seeing it in a Disney movie where it's obviously not at the forefront, but it's an idea that if anyone wants to build in this world or play around in this world, there's a lot of potential for different types of stories and situations that would play with this theme. So I don't know, it's kind of curious.
Yeah, that's what I love. And this is the kind of thing that gives birth to the best fan fiction, I think, is when you have a really cool setting that's really well thought out and has all these minutia and these details that, maybe when the people were making this movie, they didn't think about this. It's totally possible it didn't occur to them, like, oh yeah, if you're a different sized animal, you would have to spend your money differently. Maybe that never crossed their mind. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. It doesn't matter because they've given us these pieces that we can now take those and expand on it and think about it. And so I haven't actually read any Zootopia fan fiction, but I'm wondering if anyone gets into this kind of thing, and expands on like the socioeconomic realities of this type of world.
I was actually just thinking about that because I was thinking if we do get a Patreon started, maybe we could have our patrons vote on which fan fiction they want us to read every month.
Oh boy.
I mean, that might be something interesting. But if you guys have any fan fictions you recommend, let us know, and we might talk about it in a future episode.
Yeah.
I'm surprised no one's recommended the fanfic yet.
Well, I'm wondering how big of a fandom there really is for Zootopia, like in relation to something we're familiar with, like the Brony fandom. It's like huge, obviously. And there's lots of fan fictions that are well known. There's lots of tropes that are well known. Like everyone knows cupcakes. Everyone knows about Fallout Equestria. But I don't know if there's an equivalent, if there's that much of an audience for the Zootopia fandom.
So our the big central hub of our fandom when it got started, and still kind of is now, is Equestria Daily.
Yeah, EQD.
And the Zootopia equivalent would be Zootopia News Network, which we want to give another shout out to. We have a bunch of listeners who keep on saying, thanks to ZNN, we found your podcast. So once again, thank you, Zootopia News Network. And
that was totally out of the blue. I think it was you said, hey, look, I found a Zootopia fan network. Maybe we should talk to them. And then I found that they'd already made a post about our podcast. And I'm like, dude, look at this. So yeah, big thanks to ZNN for getting the word out, I guess.
Breaking news. Oh my God, it just got released. The new DLC for Civilization. Oh my God, it's up. Australia has just been released for the first time in the Civilization game now.
Oh my gosh, as a civilization?
Yeah, Australia has been a favorite fan. Okay, I'm going off topic.
Who's the leader?
It's been a very big fan favorite. Like, there's been fan-made mods for Australia, but this is the first time Australia. The leader is, I think, John Curtis. He was the prime minister during World War II.
Like, I was just picturing the sniper from TF2 as the leader for whatever reason. That's cool. I still don't have the new Civ. I'll need to get it soon.
Yeah, you need to play.
Yeah.
But I know a friend who plays Civ who's Australian, so I bet he's excited.
Perfect. Well, getting back to the minute, Judy buys that big popsicle, steps outside with them, and we see them all three of them, Nick, his son, and Judy, walking away from the doors. And we see the name, I think we mentioned it before, the name of the shop, but it's Jumbo, and it's spelled in sort of a New Orleans French kind of way. EAUX, Jumbo.
And you
Very
see
fancy.
elephant feet as the motifs of the shop.
Yeah, the pillars on the side of the building. Again, the architecture. I love it so much.
And right next door is a movie theater.
Yeah.
That is showing the movie Star Trunk.
Star Trunk. I want to see that.
Well, it's funny
See,
because
so it is like a big animal neighborhood, like a pachyderm neighborhood.
It's an elephant themed movie right by an elephant shop.
That's
so
so
do you think they
interesting.
have to make movies to cater to the different types of animals out there as well?
I mean, they do that in real life. They have like it's the special interest section or whatever, you know?
Oh, the urban market.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. That's funny though. Like you'd think there must be individual studios, movie studios for different types, and then there's probably the integrated ones. And that's so weird to think about. Again, with like the expandability on this world, it's huge. You could do so much with this. If there's not much fan fiction, there should be.
We
That's
should
what I'm
write
saying.
one.
Star Trunk. I want to see that. Goodness. And yeah, they're walking away from the shop, and Nick says, "You know, I really can't thank you enough, officer. It's very kind of you." And Judy says, "Oh, you know, it's no problem. You don't have to pay me back. It's my treat. Because I just get so burned up when something. Apparently popsicles make her hot.
Yeah,
They
she
burn
says,
her up.
You know,
Ice
it
makes her
burns
hot."
me up. So if something burns her up, maybe the popsicle will cool her down.
Maybe
We
it
don't know yet.
explodes in the next minute. We don't know. We'll have to find out for next time. But I think that just about does it for this minute.
Yeah. Well, we do want to give a shout out to Bravery the Brony for drawing some fan art for us.
Yes, that was awesome, Bravery. Thank you so much for that. That was really cool
Thank
to
you very
see.
much. Love the picture.
Yes, and if you guys want to send us anything along those lines, you can tweet it at us at Zootopia Minute. You can email us, zootopiaminute@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Tumblr, subscribe to our YouTube, all those good things. And I think we'll see you next week when hopefully we get to announce Zootopia winning its Oscar nominations.
Let's hope it wins.
Let's hope it wins. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Have a good one.
Take care.